Hello, everybody. It's been a long time. 25 days sober from alcohol today. Feels fucking fantastic. Excited to hit 30, day 30. But I've been reading this book and it is so badass. I know I geek out heavily on communication practices because it's an absolute catalyst for growth and understanding. When it comes to personal development and enlightened self-interest so that everybody wins, it's absolutely critical to, if we're going to talk about self-interest, getting what you want, and then if you're going to talk about helping others to discover what they want, or maybe they have already organized themselves to present properly what they desire, to help them get it. And so I'm halfway through the book, couldn't wait to share. Of course, I've read a ton of books on communication practices, negotiating, conflict resolution, etc. But this book just brings it all together. And so I wanted to share. The first thing I learned from this book is that there's actually, in general, there's three types of conversations at all times. One is a decision-making conversation, an emotional conversation, or a social conversation. And the decision making is typically, what is this really about? And the second one, the emotional, is what am I feeling, or trying to understand what the other person is feeling. And then, of course, you've got the social, who am I and who are you? And understanding where someone's communicating from is critical, because now you can go down that path, validate and label thoughts and feelings, and paraphrase and summarize, so that they know that or at least are trying to know what they're saying. Without that, you're going to create a gap between you and the other party or parties, and there's not going to be any collaboration done. The second thing that I learned so far from this book is neural synchronization, which is super powerful because it explains how the brain functions in this way. And there's not going to be any effective communication unless you align those neural patterns. And I once heard it said, neurons that fire together wire together. We know this to be true now. And it comes by facilitating deeper empathy and standing next to someone's feelings and not trying to dismiss them, but understand and validate, stand next to it as long as necessary. And by being vulnerable like that, people are allowing you into their perspective. And typically we have to lay our vulnerability cards down on the table first, so that it ignites the other to, it ignites reciprocity. Excuse me. Another thing is how communication has evolved over thousands of years, and we weren't so communicable in the past, and now we are, and it was learned over time. It's a neurological necessity. It's absolutely critical in order to keep the peace, in order to get everybody what they want. And I found that fascinating. This book dives into that. It also goes into how you need connection before communication. And it just reminded me how critical that is. Understanding someone's perspective of life, the way that they think and process things, also their feelings, is so critical, because until someone feels heard, they don't really give a shit, and that's powerful. And that makes total sense. Unless someone really understands why I'm thinking the way I am and why I'm feeling the way I am, I don't really feel like they get it. And that's powerful. Another thing that I also learned from this book was that you have to have a flexibility within perspective. You don't have to agree with someone to see where they're coming from. I experienced that today. We had a challenging house meeting with a guy that very likely, stole rent money from us. And I understand his perspective, even though it might be a fucking flat out lie. But if it's not a lie, I do understand his perspective. He accidentally spent money that he didn't realize is rent, which is probably a lie. But he did. And if that's true, let's say it is true, even though part of me is like, that's bullshit, I understand his perspective. If it's the truth, I could see how that can happen. And so I don't agree with it, but I don't think that that's reason to not have to pay us back for rent or anything. But I do understand that that is his perspective. I just don't agree with it. And it allowed me to generate better communication with him today. Another thing is that Accessing deeper conversations is absolutely necessary to have a successful conversation to begin with. If you don't, if you don't understand deeper motivations, underlining interests, and if someone is trying to be logical, emotional, or where they stand in the process, you could also look at it like this: do they want to be hugged, heard, or helped? Those are all practical ways to go about it. You've got the emotional brain, the logical brain, and then you've got the part of your brain that's trying to figure out where they are within that process and how they're going to be affected and who is going to be affected. If you don't understand that, you're not going to be able to fucking get what you want, help others to get what they want. You know, it, High performers within I'm a developing high performer, and people that want to be super communicators, they understand that instead of trying to get a bigger piece of the pie, let's just make the pie bigger. It's a collaborative effort. It's just like the laws of negotiation, which a lot of people believe is manipulation. It's not. Negotiation practices is boundaries, validating, understanding, active listening, and it's a two-way street where you want both parties to get what they want and hopefully find more to offer. I also learned in this book the difference between learning conversations and active listening. They do mesh, but they are different in that learning conversations is employed by truly understanding and learning from the other party, something you did not know, even if you already did. And active listening is really paraphrasing and summarizing what they've said so that they truly feel that you've heard them, even if you don't agree with their perspective. Something else I liked from half of this book is the unspoken rules of engagement, which most people just don't want to. They don't want to accept it. No matter what, if you're a poor communicator, if you're a poor listener, you're not going to be able to go very far. You can do a lot on your own, but eventually you're going to need a team. You're going to need support, and vice versa. You're going to be a part of a team, and you're going to be a part of someone's support system. And really, that's all I got. Halfway through this book, I'm combining it with rereading nonviolent communication practices, and it's just so powerful because effective communication is fundamental. You need it for personal development and enlightened self-interest. And understanding those different types of conversations and adapting accordingly can make you so tactical. I say tactical. This sounds, kind of aggressive, but it's not. Tactical communication practices, within my perspective, anyways, and you don't have to agree, but you can understand what I'm saying, is that I am going to employ things that bond us together so I have a better understanding. I'm going to, remain vulnerable and authentic so that, my counterpart hopefully opens up themselves. And now we're going to be able to get to the nitty gritty, the things that really matter, the underlining interest under the conversation. And finally, communication skills can be learned. They really can. Active listening and learning conversations are super powerful. And if you become a developing expert in communication practices, you're going to go far. You're going to learn a lot and you're going to get more of what you want. So that's all I got for today. It's nice to be back. And I hope you guys lean towards self-kindness. Take care.